Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you are watching my 100% walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Nintendo Wii. Welcome to Lanayru Desert. This is definitely the most sprawling region that's got the most distance, definitely the most travel time as far as walking around, both in part because of the sheer size of it is larger, but also because there's so much sink sand. And sink sand is kind of a pain to run through, so it takes a lot of time to go through that. So even though it might not necessarily be that much bigger than some other zones, it's actually, it takes longer to traverse, if that makes sense. So that being said, one of the things that's notable about this area is there is a lot of shortcuts that we can create, and some of them don't really matter too much, but I would say a lot of the shortcuts in this zone are very helpful. So I would highly recommend that you get all of those. I'm going to point them out as we get to them, so I would encourage you to unlock those because it will help you a lot. Along those same lines, unlocking the bird statues is very important here. I would say it's probably one of the more linear zones, actually. It might not seem like it seems pretty spread out and stuff, but it's actually very linear. And so if you miss a shortcut or you miss a bird statue, if you have to go back to a previous area, then it will make it very difficult if you don't have a bird statue unlocked. But interesting thing to know is you can go to a bird statue, go to the sky, and then warp back to Lanayru and go to another previously unlocked bird statue. So that's one way you can warp around the map. And so that might actually save you a lot of time rather than walking. Because of all the sink sand and stuff, a lot of these areas that you have to go through end up taking quite a bit of time to go through them. So using the bird statues can save you a lot of time, actually, to warp that way instead. There is some rocks that you can blow up too, and one of them also has a time shift stone. Now remember that time shift stones, you can only have one of them active at a time, so if you activate one of the later ones, it doesn't really matter right now because we're currently using the one inside Lanayru Mine, but if you activate one of the other time shift stones, but then you want to go back through Lanayru Mine, say you forgot to activate the bird statue that's at the beginning of Lanayru Mine before you ever entered, then you'd have to use this time shift stone to activate this doorway and minecart. One of the other things that this particular time shift stone does too is it also creates some vines nearby that you can climb. This is to lead to a different side quest item later. It also leads to some treasure technically that you could get right now, I suppose. There's also often an ancient flower up there, so as long as you're activating that, I do like to get the ancient flower as long as we're passing by. You can save at the nearby bird statue, although more importantly is just activating it in general, so make sure you talk to that bird statue. And then continuing onwards, we have a new enemy here called an Ampylus. Now this is obviously a reference to electricity, amp being part of their name. But anyways, these hermit crabby things can be killed by either letting them bonk into... They will run towards you as soon as they see you, and they electrify themselves, which is bad. So as long as you have a wooden shield, not the iron shield, you can actually bonk into them and shield bash them with that. Otherwise, you can lure them into bonking into other things, such as the tree nearby. After you hit them with something, they will actually get stunned and you can defeat them. Now you can also smack them from range with the slingshot, I believe, to stun them as well so you can get close to them. Otherwise you can also roll bombs towards them. When defeated, they do leave their shell behind. This is kind of interesting. In this particular area, you can actually use it to get to the fire generator by using it up against the far wall. That's kind of an advanced trick though. It's very difficult to lure them over to a wall just right though. Anyway, moving on, there is a wall up ahead that you can climb using the softer, crumbled away side. Unfortunately, you do have to run up them using stamina. If you just walk up normally, then you won't be able to climb up. So you have to use some stamina to run up it. And up here we have a chest containing a tumbleweed. Fi has some descriptions about it. She says that tumbleweeds occasionally appear in the desert, and we can use the bug catching net to collect it. Now, this is all great, and I will show how to do that later. There's actually a great place where you can farm for it, which is wonderful. Here what I did is we climb on top of this particular... this cage here, and then you can throw bombs into the nearby hole on top of the other cage. This will blow up some rocks inside. I think you might be able to blow it up from out here, I'm not sure. But anyways, inside there is a time shift stone. So once you've blown up the rocks, you can smack the time shift stone, and you can hit it with the slingshot, you can throw bombs into it from above. Otherwise, you can also use a Skyward Strike. This will create a past field that allows us to access this robot up ahead, which brings it back to life, and it asks you for help. Now here we have a new enemy. These are Technoblins. Now unfortunately Technoblins have an electric attack that if you smack it with your sword, then it will electrocute you. So this makes them a little bit more dangerous because if you mess up with your sword attacks, then they'll do a lot of damage to you, which is awful. So the best ways of dealing with them is to use all those other tricks that you use on Bokoblins. So you can shield bash them as the easiest guaranteed way to take care of them. You can throw bombs at them, although you gotta kind of be careful because the explosions can hit you too if they're too close. Otherwise, the best ways to deal with them, honestly, is to knock them to the ground because then you can use fatal blows. So different attacks that do that is you can use running dash attacks followed by slashing. So you dash at them and then just swing your Wiimote. and this will charge at them and it will knock them down. Their defenses are always down if you attack them from range with that. You can use Skyward Strikes, work really good. They might block that, but if you're far enough away, then it will hit them every time and also knock them to the ground. You can also use the Slingshot to stun them, and that's guaranteed to work as well. I would say, and then you can also use spin attacks. Generally speaking, as long as you use a spin attack right as they're running up to you, they're kind of vulnerable to them. Similar to like Dino Foals from Twilight Princess, actually. If you use a spin attack as they're getting close to you, then they'll be vulnerable. So anyways, I'll show more of those tactics of how to deal with Technoblinds later on, but saving the robot, he will then upgrade your Beetle to a Hook Beetle, which allows you to pick up objects. So this is primarily used for bombs. So you can now pick up bombs with them, and you can drop things on them. Now, one thing to note about this, he actually mentions this real quick, but you can actually use the Z button while holding objects with the Hook Beetle. This will allow you to look down, just like you do with your bird, actually, when you're diving off it, and then you can press A to drop it. Now, interesting thing to know about that is it makes your controls a little more fine-tuned, so you have to like move the controller. It takes more distance of the Wiimote to make the Hook Beetle move, so you can fine-tune it. But also your Hook Beetle moves a little bit slower anyway. So if you're a little bit panicked about how fast your Hook Beetle is moving, you can just use Z and it'll make it slow down too. A lot of the trees in this area have bomb flowers on top of them, so just kind of keep an eye out for that because you're going to need them to complete various puzzles, but also just occasionally you can use it to defeat enemies and stuff too. Now when you have a bomb flower in the clutches of in the mouth, so to speak, of the Beetle, you can actually just ram right into enemies, and that's great, but generally speaking, using Z is far superior. In fact, you can actually all it really takes to defeat enemies is just the radius of the explosion of the bomb, so you don't actually have to like ram into the enemies or necessarily get all that close either. All you have to do is just have the bomb blow up on the ground somewhere near the enemy. It'll blow up as soon as it lands, actually, using this method. It doesn't like continue blinking away after it hits the ground. It instantly explodes. So as long as you have the radius of the explosion somewhat near the enemy, you can actually defeat them. For example, this electro spume that's here in the sand. I'm going to blow it up using the Hook Beetle, and by dropping the bomb just near it. So as long as it's on the ground, kind of near the electro spume, that's all it really takes. Quick note, I think there's a tree in the distance past that Ampylus, and I think that one has an Amber Relic behind it usually. Not always. Like a lot of the treasure in this game is only occasionally there. So here I'm back in the sand, and I showed this in the previous video, but there's a trick to getting across sand where you hold down Z and press A, and this will allow you to, as long as you're holding a direction anyways, you can jump in that direction. So what you can do is you can hold Z forward and A to jump forward, then release Z, but keep holding forward in an A, and this will allow you to start running in the sand. Now what this does is it means that you jump forward into the sand without using any stamina, and then you start running, so you're only using stamina after you've already landed in the sand. This allows you to save a little bit of stamina. I'm not actually sure on the exact amount of stamina this saves. It's something like half of a slice of the stamina pie, something like that. I'm not actually sure on the specifics on how much it saves, but it does save some. So by doing this for every single batch of sand that you're running to, it can allow you to go a little bit further. For example, in this next area, it's very helpful. Here we have some new bird enemies. These are called Hrok, H-R-O-K, and they will occasionally drop boulders on you. Now, usually what they'll do is they'll just kind of do a hit-and-run tactic where they'll come towards you and do that, and then they'll just immediately run away. Now, it looks like, though, this one kept running away. I was trying to kill it, but apparently it just is totally out of my sights now, so whatever. I just gave up on it. It doesn't matter. So up ahead, what we do is I'm going to use the bomb flowers that are on top of these trees to hit the Ampylus, and all you need to do is you need the explosion to be somewhere near the head. If it's towards the body, it will work, and if you hit the shell will actually block the attack, and it doesn't work very well. Now, this shell will sit in the sand for a little bit, so you can use it as a waypoint to get over to the next island. So you want to make sure you get off the shell before it disappears, because it'll only last for a few seconds. Electro Spume can be fought at a distance using the Skyward Strikes, but otherwise the bombs are the best way to take care of them. So you can either use your regular bombs, or you can also use the bombs on top of the trees. But anyways, here this is the area I think that is the trickiest of this whole little area that we're in right now, is you have to wait for this Ampylus to be really close to whatever side you're on. So basically you need it right in the middle in order to reach all the little islands. And even there, like, I used my little trick to increase the amount of stamina I had, but it still wasn't enough because the shell is just too far away. So I'm actually going to step back a little bit so that I don't accidentally bring the Ampylus over to me. But you want to wait for it to be right in the middle in between the three islands. And unfortunately, my controller just keeps uncalibrating. I swear, guys, like, I've played this game a lot, and I've never had issues with my controls, but I've been having so many issues this playthrough. It's crazy. So maybe it's a nice thing, though. I feel like it gives me a better understanding of what my viewers have been experiencing all this time. But yeah, if that happens to you, just a couple sword slashes can fix that. So some horizontal slashes, some vertical slashes, poof, you're fixed. We're going to the far left side using the egg, and this will allow you to reach the small island where there is a goddess cube. This is the 11th one total that we've gotten, and this leads to a heart medal that's up on Volcano Island in the sky. Heart medals are kind of cool. What they do is they make it so that recovery hearts appear more often, both from jars and digging in holes like this, for example, as well as fighting enemies in particular. Now, one of the interesting things about that is actually that in Hero Mode, when you're playing this game, you unlock Hero Mode after you've beaten the game the first time. And one of the differences in Hero Mode is that recovery hearts do not appear from enemies, and heart flowers do not appear at all. So there are no heart flowers. There are no hearts in things like these cactus. Like, for example, you can smack the tops like this to make recovery hearts appear. In Hero Mode, that doesn't happen. So you don't get any recovery hearts at all. Now, while wearing the heart medal, though, you will actually get some hearts to appear. So they appear at a frequency similar to the regular game. Meanwhile, in the regular game, when you use heart medal, it makes them appear significantly more often. There is actually two heart medals in the game. I think I said heart flowers earlier. Whatever. Heart medals. There's two heart medals in the game, and if you wear both of them, then it significantly increases the frequency of you getting hearts to appear. I can already tell just looking at this. This Ampylus did not cooperate with me very well. I can't reach the left side, I don't think. I don't think I have quite enough stamina for that, so I'm actually going to head over here to the right side. The distance looks pretty similar, but I honestly think the left side is just a little bit harder to get to. But you want to make sure that the Ampylus is right in the middle to give you enough distance so that you can reach it. Yeah, you can see it a lot better from this perspective. That Ampylus is totally over here on the left side, so it's not close enough to the right at all. But something interesting to know about Ampylus, though, is they will roll towards you, but if they bonk into something that's too big, then it will actually stop them in their tracks. So an example of that actually is these little islands we're on right now. They're a little taller. So just something to note when you're jumping across sand is if the ground that you're on is has just a really teeny lip, then the Ampylus can run across it. But if it's a little bit taller, has a little bit more of a, like you almost have to hop onto it when you're using your stamina, then that will actually bonk into them. So I'm actually safe here. If they do roll towards me, it's not going to hit me. So that's part of why I'm so close to this far side. So here I killed the Ampylus, but it rolled again off to the far side again. Ideally, I would have waited till it was turned around the other way, I guess. But so here, just wait on top of the shell until you have enough stamina, and then jump across. And this should be enough. So once again, using the Z and A trick helps a lot. You get a whole another quarter of a pie of stamina. Up ahead, we have a bird statue. You want to make sure you unlock all of these. This will actually allow us to warp directly here whenever we want, because if you go to a bird statue, you can go to the sky and then warp back to Lanayru. This allows you to drop down wherever you want. So this is technically all we really need, but in addition to that, you can also unlock this shortcut by climbing the nearby ledge, and this leads us to a minecart that you can knock off the ledge, and this will allow us to climb up it. So this is nice, and there's actually several of these throughout this area that allow you to climb up, so you'll see there's one across the way as well. But that's actually a shortcut for later. We can't actually access that just yet. Some of the shortcuts are more useful than others. This particular one, I would rate it, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would call it a solid meh. That's about what it is. But, the principle of the thing, gotta unlock everything. This is a 100% walkthrough, guys. No shortcut left behind. So as always, activate the bird statue. You don't necessarily have to save at it, but definitely interact with it. This will allow us to use this bird statue if we ever want to warp back here. And the nearby cactus actually has a bomb flower on it, which is interesting. I don't know why why cactus have them, but cactus do bloom every once in a while, so maybe this is a thing. This is just the flower of the cactus. This is a bomb cactus. So not only are they pokey, they also explode. Definitely want to keep that as a houseplant. The nearby sandfalls are causing this whole area of sand to be moving, so they actually steadily move from left to right. Now this doesn't really affect us as far as running across it really, but it does make it so that when you use the Ampylus, the shells will steadily move from left to right. This is actually to our advantage because we can use it to go over to the right side, and this will allow us to steadily go towards these little islands. Now remember that Ampylus shells will steadily disappear after a little while, so just watch out for them to start turning black because they're going to disappear shortly. There is a couple little side areas here, but they don't matter at all. There's just some bugs there. So just continuing on to the far left where there is the fancy opening which was made to draw your eye. Ooh. So once again, you can always use the Z and A trick. I do like to encourage you to use it all the time. If you get in the habit of it, you'll save yourself a lot of headache. So if you've been dowsing so far, then you would know that her signal is coming from this area, which is called the Temple of Time, which is an exciting title. If you've played some other Zelda games, you would know that that title is significant for the Zelda series. I'm going to run forward and activate the bird statue. Make sure you talk to this thing, because if we can warp back here, that would save us some time. Continuing onwards, there is some Lanayru dragonflies here, so I like to catch them. You just gotta sneak up on them really carefully. And again, like I was saying before, you just get the bug catching net real close to them, and just a quick flick of the wrist. You don't even have to swing it that far. You can catch those bugs. Now there is some bones on the ground, and that is a Technoblin corpse, and so when you use the Time Shift Stone, this will actually bring it back to the past, and the Technoblin will come back to life. You can always knock them out of the Time Shift area, and this will actually make them, it will kill them, it'll turn them back into skeletons. I don't like to do that though, I generally try to not knock them out of the Time Shift area or knock them off ledges. There I accidentally did. The reason being because they can drop treasure, so I want to get as much treasure from them as I can. So yeah, if you have trouble with Technoblins and you don't want to deal with them, you can totally knock them out of the time field, and that would work as well. I'm going to grab the nearby bomb flower with the hook beetle and then fly up to the top of the tree. Also be warned, if you accidentally touch the rupee because you're trying to collect it, because you're currently holding a bomb, that will cause it to explode, so don't do that. So ignore the rupee, go up a little bit, and at the top of the tree you can actually drop a bomb down into the center. There's actually some purple light coming out of the tree, and this is to indicate that there is a time shift stone here. This allows us to use the nearby minecart so we can go through the tree. Now the tree is blocked though, and this is because you need to use another bomb flower in the middle of the tree. And what I like to do is actually use the bomb flower on this pillar kind of in between the crystal switch and this Dekubaba. Now that we have brought it back to the past, the Dekubaba is alive, so if you smack it onto the pillar, it will kill the Dekubaba, and the radius will also smack the crystal switch so that we can activate that at the same time. But now this is in the past and we've gone and opened that gate, we can now use the nearby minecart to go through here. If that Dekubaba is still alive, you can use, I think it's always a horizontal Dekubaba, so you can just use a horizontal slash. In this particular case, my controller was a little bit uncalibrated too, so I would have had to have fixed that ahead of time in order to make that function properly. And also, whenever you're using these time shift stones, always look for ancient flowers in passing, because you want to collect all those you can. There's a couple bomb flowers nearby which you can fill up. Like, a lot of the bomb flowers we've been using so far have been like on top of cactus, so we haven't actually had any down low that we could use for a while. So if you are low on bombs, you can do that, and that would help a lot. Now these Octoroks can be defeated with a bunch of different ways, but generally speaking, shield bashes are the best way to take care of them. Next, use the nearby bomb cacti to grab a bomb and then use it on the far pillar, which has a rock on it. So you can just bonk into it or drop it with a nearby, and that'll work just fine. So blow that up, and this will reveal a time shift stone. So you want to smack that with either the beetle or the slingshot. You can actually kind of assess the situation a little bit ahead of time, because you can walk all over there while it's still deserty, and you can see that there is 2 skeletons. And it's an interesting thing to know about these Technoblins, because they're only in the past, they will actually stop at the edges of the sand, so you can't actually, or they won't actually come out here. So if you're fighting them and they start chasing you down and you're freaked out, you can actually just run away, and they cannot move past the edge there. Fun fact though too, they do run away from your bombs. However, when you're using the hook beetle on bombs, they will actually they will explode instantaneously as soon as they hit the ground. So you can totally use the nearby bomb flowers with the hook beetle to defeat these guys as well. And as always, the best way to take care of them is try to knock them down on the ground, and then also too, if you do knock them down, they get stunned or whatever, and they get back up, you can smack them real quick, and there's like a split second before they start defending where you can still attack them and they're vulnerable, so you can get past their defenses entirely. Now if you do knock them out of the past, then they will turn back into skeletons, and I don't really like doing this because that means that we don't get any treasure that they might have dropped. After defeating both of the Technoblins, you want to speak with the robot, and it will tell you that Lanayru Mining Facility is your next objective, and it's over here in the middle of Lanayru Desert. Unfortunately, your map is outdated, so it will then change your map to make it look like the past. So there's a bunch of things that are on the map that you couldn't see before. Now this is slightly odd, so this actually makes your map slightly inaccurate for what's currently going on, but this is cool because you know what's there when you use time shift stones. And this actually gives us some pretty big clues about how to progress forward, and we also need to use our map in order to navigate the next area, which is actually, I think it's super cool. I actually really like how the developers handled this. The maps are actually useful in Skyward Sword, and even if you played the game before, like there's different points where certain maps in particular are very useful and you want to look at your map. I just think it's cool. It's like finally the map actually serves a purpose and you want to use it. In a lot of the past Zelda titles, like occasionally you would look at your map, but it doesn't like actually point out clues so much. It's just like, hey, there's a chest over there. Like, okay, I guess I should go get it. But meanwhile, in this game, it's like, I don't know. It's just nice. You're actually using your map. It serves the purpose that a map should actually serve, and I think that's cool. So one of the things that the robot told us was that the way towards the Temple of Time was actually blocked, but there is another entrance through the Lanayru mining facility, so that's why he was telling us to go there. Now, you can also speak with Gorko here, who is investigating the Temple of Time, and as he was coming by here, he actually saw Zelda, as well as the figure garbed in black that we saw at in the Eldin area, as well as at the end of the Earth Temple. So, they all went in there. We can't get to the Temple of Time this way, so we need to take a super roundabout route and go through here instead. Hooray for arbitrary plot points! You want to continue on to the right, and there is a time shift stone that we can see from this perspective in the little alcove. You want to use either the Beetle or the slingshot on it, and this will activate it, which brings this area to the past. And also just make sure whenever you do that you always grab the nearby ancient flowers. They don't always spawn, but there's a good chance for them to, so just always check whenever you use a time shift stone. So want to hop in the minecart. This will take us across the bridges, and then what you want to do is charge up a Skyward Strike and hit the Goddess Cube. Now if you miss, then you can just hop back into the minecart. This will cause it to start going back the other way. So charge it up like by holding your sword straight up, and then you can release it. And now what you want to do, and this is what I realized watching this recording after the fact, is that the minecart has to be flat. If it's still at an angle, then your Skyward Strike will hit the sides of it. So this is our 12th cube total, and this particular one leads to a piece of heart. So if that happens to you, hop back in the minecart, and then continuing onwards, there is actually a time shift stone off to the right, and this will actually lead to some more minecarts that take you back to the first part of the Temple of Time area. We don't need to do that. We just want to continue on straight ahead instead, and go through that cave entrance right there. Some Octoroks along the way, you can just ignore them though. But that's the end of this video, folks. Join me for the next one. We will continue with the larger portion of the Lanayru Desert. Oh, really? Trying to be a wall of death. Instead it could be anything I wanted to be. So I decided to become a wall of death. I was unsuccessful. They lied.